Alrighty, we're back. Yes, another day, another video talking about 3D printing the Creality K2 Plus free skeletonized featherweight 17 millimeter paint rack. Only 18 grams? I don't know. We're going to find out. Welcome. I am Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat, retired here in Korea. And some of the stuff that I end up doing is 3D printing. Now, you might have noticed over there? No, it's over here. Or there. It's there. So anyway, the paint rack that you end up seeing, what I ended up doing is making a 17 millimeter paint rack for the Army Painter paints. Holds 8 paints and is fairly lightweight. Comes in pretty good. Some nice form and function, and it's got some screw holes in there that will line up with the Scatus pegboard. It's not like Scatus approved or whatever. It's just round holes that line up with the holes on the Scatus IKEA pegboard. But with that, I started getting the idea, you know what? This was, I can't remember how many grams this was, but it wasn't much. And the price was minimal. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I can make one that's even lighter weight, more skeletonized, a featherweight version. And this is another step in the journey to making smaller, lighter, but still hold up to 8 paints. So yeah, I started down this road and I want to take you on this journey, and it printed out and we can pull it off the plate and we can actually end up, I need to get the scale for that to see what is the final result on that. And I don't have the scale here. So with that, let me go run and check that out. So hold on, I will be right back. Okay, we're back, and we had to get the scale. So the scale is there. All right, we're back. Whew, man, talk about prior planning. Maybe I should have done a little bit of that. But anyway, let's jump into this and I'll show you what we ended up doing. Again, like I said, I have the other paint rack that you get off of my Creality Cloud site, and we're going to jump right into Tinkercad, because that's what I've been using to make all this stuff. So you can kind of see the model that I had made and how I did it using different shapes and colors. And then I was thinking, well, I'm going to make one that's maybe a tilted version, try to minimize the content, kind of do something like this to where, you kind of see with those the boards and stuff that are printed out that you put together. I've got some of those on my desk. But then I thought, let's do a skeletonized version of this. And so I started out with the cylinder for the size of the paint. So that's the hole there. And I took a little disc cylinder, and then is able to kind of do that to get the top ring, and then the bottom ring was solid. And then all I ended up doing to get the shape there was basically just take another one like this, and we kind of put it in there like so, and we kind of drug it out this way, and then we copied it, and then what did we end up doing? We ended up rotating it like that, and then we copied that, and we rotated this, not that one, this one, rotated that, and then we copied that, and then we rotated this around, so we got something like that, and then we're able to select all of those and make the hole like that in the bottom. So in other words, a skeletonized view of that. So basically, that's how I ended up doing this, and I wanted to see how much material I could get away with. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. So once I made the first little piece like we see back there, then all I ended up doing is grouping that all together, brought it together, and then I made a little piece here for the screw hold. In other words, it's going to be a wall mount. I think the hole on this is a little bit big, so I made this a little bit smaller on the next version that I'm going to be posting on Creality Cloud. And then once I had this here, then I just selected this whole thing, grouped it together, copied it, and then just moved it over. And boom, that's what we end up having. So yeah, kind of some fun stuff. The other thing we ended up doing is throwing it, exporting it, and throwing it into Creality Print that we see here. And we can see some more details as far as, there it is, we're printing it out in Hyper PLA Black. Obviously, with the discs and everything, we're going to need some supports on this. So if we do it with supports, but to get an idea of how much this is going to weigh and to minimize material to be used for this, what we'll end up doing, no, we don't want to do that. We want to select that. We go to preview, and there is the sliced version. And I'm using gyroid 5%, and so there's not a lot of material there, as you can see. I mean, when we're talking about this, it's just like, and I'm wondering how skeletonized I can get. So on the next version of this, I'll probably make it even, because, you know, there's quite a few layers there. I could probably just get away with, you know, there's one layer. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 layers. I might be able to get away and maybe half that. So we'll see what we can do. But with this, you know, it ends up just going through, and when we slice this up, what does this come out to? Yeah, our Creality K2 Plus, and we end up, as we see here, I don't know if y'all can see that, but I know a way that we can do that. So let's just do this. We'll go like that, and we'll go like this, and then we can make this bigger and show you that just with the model itself, we're talking about 18.99 grams. That's 38 cents. So you put the cost of your reel of filament and however much you paid. I think mine was like, I set it for like 20 bucks. I'm not sure exactly, but I mean, we're talking about grams, 18.99 grams. So 19 grams or less of filament to do this 17 millimeter paint holder wall mount. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I thought that was kind of cool. So what we ended up doing is printing this out, and of course we're going to need supports on this. So if we go back to here, we're going to enable supports. I did tree, auto, default, on the build plate only. And when we slice this up, we come up with pretty shapes and colors. And the total weight on that with the supports is 35.39 grams. And there it is. So yeah, we'll see if we can reduce this on the next version, and we'll probably half the height of the rings. We'll do that and see how much we can save. And I think I'll leave the the supports in there at the same size. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. So what we're going to end up doing now that we finished that up, we're going to go over to the table. We got to move over a little bit, and what we'll do is we'll take a look at the model itself because it printed out and it's on the table back there. And if we got, where's the camera? Show camera switcher window thingy. And boom, you can see it on the table at the feet of the Viking. So we're going to do that. And I need to move the mic, so we're going to have to do some little moving around stuff here. So we're just going to go to this, and we'll do that. And we'll move the chair around. And I'm going to move the microphone. Do that little AMSR thing, and we will move our Viking dude out of the way. Another model that I eventually need to paint. We've got our scale, and there is our print. Let me see if I can get it. Is that like centered? I think so, maybe. Yeah. So that is it right there. So, boom, that came off nice and easy. Set that over there. And as far as supports, you should see how these come off. I think these are set at 0.2 for the top Z heights. So I think we might have some, okay, that came off not too bad. But some of these, we're gonna need some tools. So I think I need to go get some cutters, some side cutters. So with that, I will be right back. Again, pre-planning. I should have done it. Should have done more. Luckily, I've got some right here. So, these ones on the front, those come off pretty good. Those are nice and easy. Probably need to, got a few marks on there, but not too bad. Probably need to change the top Z distance a little bit, so it'll help with the removal. Since it's at 0.2, I should probably set it at like 0.24, which is my normal. But I think I just went with this for stock. But these are coming off not bad. And again, it's on the bottom. It's not like you're gonna look around and see all this stuff. But if I skeletonize this even more and half the amount of the disc, then that's definitely going to come into play. You know, I made the holes a little bit smaller as well. Those holes are a little bit too big. So we'll do that. So a little bit of work on this. Again, this is auto tree supports. So again, nothing crazy. And do that. Boom. Nice. Will this just pop off? Yeah. Isn't that nice when the supports come off nice and easy? Still a little bit of adhesion on there, but I think with adjusting the top Z distance to about 0.24, I think we'd still get some good support, and then it would be a little bit easier to take this off. So there, and the rest of this, we have to do some little bit of cutting, and boom, there is our skeletonized paint rack. And to show that it actually fits, so we got a fair amount of distance there, and being minimized, that'll just hang on the wall. And so what I might end up doing is dropping it about half, so that these little points that come out and will hold the, let's get another color, get something that will have some contrast. But what I could end up doing is taking these parts that end up where the paint sits, I can recess that down about half the distance of this, so at least this will sit in there. I mean, it works as it is. It's not gonna, you know, paint's not gonna fall out or anything like that. But just to reduce a little bit of the weight, yeah, I'll definitely try to take this down, the layers down almost half, and we'll see what happens. I'll keep these supports the way they are because I think those are good enough. But now the question is, move this out of the way, how much does this weigh? So that is the big question. How much does it weigh? So we'll get our little coffee scale going here. And we're set at 0 grams. And we are at 18.6 grams. That is pretty good. I like that. And I think we can get this down a little bit. I think we can get this down a little bit more. And especially if like I said, what we could end up doing is taking this maybe half but then that's going to be kind of flimsy, but I'm going to keep the braces all the same size, because I think that's needed. But on the top, I can drop this down maybe a third for the ring up on the top, or the disc on the top, and then down here on the bottom, I could come down a third, and we could like lose and trim off a little bit more weight. And what I could end up doing is, since all of these are connected at the top, I might be able to get rid of these here. So in other words, I could end up, I'll just get rid of them right now. How's that? And we'll see how much this goes. So this is a work in progress. So we want to keep the one here, and we want to keep the one here. We're going to get rid of all of these other ones, because we're really going to skeletonize this. So this is kind of the fun stuff. Kind of just making different things. And again, I'm just doing it in Tinkercad. It's nothing crazy. Just playing with shapes and colors and all of that stuff. And we will do this. So if this was 18.6, and now we've got rid of the supports in the center, but it's still, that's still pretty good. I mean, that's good right there. So let's see, how many did we get rid of? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and each one of these, that's not even a gram. That's not even a gram. That's 0.4 grams for 2. That's 1.6 grams for those supports. So if we get rid of that, and then we put this on there, we're down to 16.8 grams. Let's see if we can get this. 16.9. Let's tear this out and put it right in the same place. 16.9 grams. Wow. Not 16.8.9, 16.9. You could blow on it and it, isn't that crazy? You can blow on it and it'll adjust. So 16.9 grams for our skeletonized, and we could probably remove a couple more. So we want to keep the center. Maybe if we remove these two, and then these two. So get rid of this one, this one, this one, and this one. And what could we get that down to? Now the problem comes, will we be able to print it? Obviously we're going to have supports all around here, but I think we could get rid of this one, and this one. So we just left with these two here and then the center. So we get rid of 1, 2, get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4. We could get rid of these 4 and leave the 3 in there. So let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. Maybe this will give us an idea of how much we could trim off with this if we made it a little bit, just a little bit less. So we'll do that one. So So I did that one, and we could do this one here. So this will be pretty cool, I think. So that one, and then we'll get rid of this one. And the bottom of that one. And so now, that is really skeletonized. We still got some good stability on here. We could get rid of these, but let's see how much this weighs. So we'll tear this out. We'll put it in basically the same place. Now we're down to 15.7, but I dare say I want to leave these side pieces in. Hmm. 15.6 grams. So I don't know. We'll go with this on the next one. This one ends up, well, of course, we'll have to go back into Tinkercad and remove some of these supports back here. We'll minimize the top by about 1/3, and then we'll minimize this about 1/3 on the bottom, and we'll see how we can see what we can get. But still, and this right here, those holes are like way too big. But you know, if you had like a pegboard, you could just hang those on the hooks and you'd be good to go. But yeah. Oh, 15.6. 15.6 grams is what we're looking at. So yeah, you're gonna lose some in some support material, but basically, wow. 15.7. .8. Maybe if I clean up a little tiny pieces. It's like trying to, how much can we save? So yeah, this is going to be interesting. Probably didn't get much there. So 15.8, 15.7. 15.6. All right, 15.6.7 is like right on the edge. Settling down at 15.6 grams. 15.7. I guess it depends on the air that I'm breathing and blowing on this thing. So that's what we're doing. 15.6 grams for the skeletonized. We'll redo this, and yeah, we'll see how this works. And that's pretty sturdy. That is not bad at all. I mean, that would definitely hold. If we threw a bunch of paints in here, let's throw these. We'll do the Army Painter airbrush paints, so you can get a look. And I wanted to be able to see the colors from the front, and of course you'll get them from the back. And yeah, not bad. I mean, it moves around a little bit, and maybe that's why I want to inset the holes, so as these bottles go in, they can kind of countersink in a little bit into this. So, but there it is, 15.6, not bad. How much does a bottle weigh? 31.4 grams. So yeah, we're doing good on this. It ends up it's working out pretty good. So with that, I'll do another video. So you'll have to wait for part 2, and we'll make the adjustments like we did here, and then we'll adjust it, we'll print it out again, we'll reduce some heights on the top disc, and then what we'll end up doing is doing a little inset here to remove a little bit of material there. But yeah, I think this is kind of cool. I mean, that's not bad. And for a minimalist type of paint rack, yeah, this is cool. I like it. So with that said, let's transition everything back to the desk, and we'll finish up this video. So back to the ASMR. Yes, moving the mic. Moving the chair, moving the mic. And we are back. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. I thought that turned out pretty good. So this will be interesting on the skeletonized paint version. Paint rack, we're down to 15.6. So that's kind of cool. And then we could reduce, excuse me, we could reduce that even more. So I'd have to do, can I do this here live? I don't know, can we? Can we? We might be able to. Because if that's this is the size of the paint bottle. That's what we end up seeing there. And you got it set to increments of 0.1 millimeters. Let's see if this will, I think it ends up, that is kind of what we're looking at. Well, maybe a little bit this way. And then, so we don't want the hole to go all the way through. What we want to end up doing, let's just go ahead and put this down, and then we want to go up by 1 millimeter. And how tall is that thing there? That's what we need to find out. So we're going to drop this here. We'll kind of zoom in so we can see that that's the same height. And we're talking 3 millimeters. So this is 3 millimeters high. Excuse me. And so what we can end up doing is dropping this down the hole, and we'll do a little recess action here. So you go 1, and then, oh, that's 1. I've got it set to, yeah, 1 millimeter. So we'll drop this down 1, and then we'll go back here, and we'll drop it down 1/2. So that way it's half the distance on that right there. So in other words, this will be 1.5 on here on the orange, and then, so that way it'll have a countersink for the bottle. So we can shave a little bit of material there. The other thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to ungroup this and make these smaller as well. So there's that. So what we'll end up doing is we'll ungroup this. And I think those are, yeah. No, that's not what I wanted. No, that's not what I wanted. I want that. No, I don't want that. I want that. Not that. Now. But basically, you get the idea. So we're going to countersink. Excuse me. We're going to countersink on the bottom parts, 1.5 millimeters, so we could get that down a little bit more. Maybe just 1 millimeter, because I want to have a decent. Well, let's just go for half. What the heck? I can always just print more or redo it. With that said, probably a good thing to do would be this here. Because we'll just end up doing that. Boom. Set a copy. So that way, if we screw one up, we can always go back, and then we could play around with this. And let's make a copy of that, and we will move this over to the next one. And I think we're going to have to go to 0.1 because that's touching the wall. And I think we're good there. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Isn't that cool how you do that? Excuse me, man. So there, what we ended up doing is in Tinkercad, when you click on something, let me show you an example of this. If I have this here, and then I click the copy command, that's going to duplicate it, and it can also repeat. So if I move this over and say I wanted to put this here, and then I hit again, it's going to go that same direction in the same amount of space, same amount of distance, same angle, whatever it is. And as long as I don't touch this, I just can keep repeating that. So that's kind of a cool function to have when you're talking about Tinkercad. The other thing that you could end up doing with that is getting the precise spacing. So for example, we've got the cylinder here, I hit copy, and let's say I've got it set at, at 5 millimeters. So if I hit the arrow bar, it'll go 5 millimeters. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. And let's say there is a spacing that I had to do where the center of each of those had to be 60 millimeters. I can count that distance out. The other thing you can end up doing is that if I hold down the shift key, it'll go an even greater amount. I'm not sure how much that is, how many millimeters that is. We could probably do a test, because I don't know, and if I don't know, you probably don't know. So let's go here, and we'll make this smaller. How about that? And we'll put it right on the edge there. And then what we'll end up doing is we can copy that. We'll just put it at the default to 1 millimeter. We'll hit shift and then the right arrow, and we can see how many it goes across. So from this edge to this edge, so we've got 10. So it'll go in increments of 10 when it's set at 1 millimeter. So if I wanted to set this at every 10, and I've set the first one, it'll just repeat. So it just makes things a lot easier. I didn't know how to do this in the beginning, so it's like I would make the separate, I would copy it, I would move it, I'd do some other stuff, and then I'd have to move it, and I was getting really frustrated. It was like, that's not what I wanted to do. So yeah, it saves a lot of time, and you can imagine, instead of creating, a circle or whatever shape it is, and you have to replicate that over a set distance, this tool really helps a lot. So yeah, just kind of some cool stuff that you find in Tinkercad. So now that I'm still gonna have to go back, because I'm gonna have to ungroup all of this stuff. But what I can do is I can take these, I could select all these, and I can group those together, and then I could just slide those back like so. And so those are already set in the shapes that they're going to be. And then what that'll allow me to do is I could go through here and I could do ungroup. And I think it's just those there. So those are separate. And then I could take, okay, so yeah, now we're tracking. So each one of these is its own separate one. So then what I could end up doing is going through, dropping the circle in, but I want to get this and make that top ring. I need to reduce that as well. So I want to click that one and that one. We'll group that, and we'll move those back as well. So now we're just left with the individual cylinders. And then we could ungroup those. And with that, we could remove some of these individual braces that we have in here. And we could trim the top rings, and we could do that. So we wanted to keep these two. We wanted to get rid of this. So we'll do that, and there's two of them there. So we got rid of that one. We wanted to get rid of this one. We kept that one. We got rid of that. We got rid of that. And that. We got rid of that one. We kept the center one, so we'll just get rid of one of those. And then we got rid of that. We got rid of that one. And of course that one there. And then that one. I don't know if this will make a difference in the weight, but we'll just remove the redundancy in there. And then we kept those two. We'll get rid of this and that. And we'll get rid of that. And there we end up with what we've got here. So we're good to go on that. So now we can go back. And if we want, I think we're good there. Oh, we need to reduce the size of these. And these are at a height of 3. So we can drop that down to 1.5. We're going to go halvesies on that. So we'll just select all of these. And let's see if we can reduce the size on that. And we'll do 1.5. So that reduces all of those, as you can see there. But then we need to reduce the height on these because we got little nubs hidden up there. So we'll hit Shift and we'll click all of these, which aren't too many left. And then we can bring those down like so. So we half the distance on the top ring. And now what we can end up doing is we can bring these back. And since I moved that around a little bit, I need to take this to 0.1 millimeters. I'll try to get that lined up where we were before. What am I doing? Which is, there we go. I'll check that other side. There we go. I think we need to drop it a little bit more because I want that circle to go down more. That'll shave a tiny bit. And there it is. We'll do that. We'll take it down right there. Okay. And we got to look at this back side and we'll see what that looks like. So that looks good. As far as the front, we've got a little bit of an overhang. So we'll take this and we'll go back a millimeter, 0.1 millimeter. So I think we're good on that. So we shaved off a little bit there by bringing that circle down. So we're good on that. And so now we can group all these together. So we'll select all of this, we'll group all this so it'll be all one piece. Told you, this is fun stuff. We got some comments. Hey, Ferrithus is back. And let's see what we got. He says, hey Steve. He said, if you make the border square and move the vertical beams to the front and back, you can print this on its side without supports. It'll probably save another 30% in material. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I was kind of debating that a little bit. As you know, when I originally started this, I was like, I want to just do a print in place with no supports. And then I kind of flip-flopped a few times over it. And then I was like, well, let me try to skeletonize this and see how light we can get this. And of course we cut all this up. It ends up as 15.6 grams. And now with these little adjustments, so I'm not really worried about the supports. I'm kind of on this on this. Let's try to make it light. And this is only version 2, so yeah, there's that. But yeah, that's a good idea. And so now I can take these and we will slide these back in. And to see where that lines up. And we can still go bonk, 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 bonk. There we go. I think we're good to go. Yep, perfect. And then, as we zoom in here, you can see that we brought this hole, this shape here, which is the hole, we brought that down 1.5. So that way it's kind of countersunk, so the bottom of the bottle will sit in there a little bit. We can shave off a little bit of material there because it was 3 millimeters. So we're going to take it down to 1.5 in that center portion. So we'll see how that goes. Fun, fun, joy, joy. Faritha says, not as sexy as the round holders, but would save on the supports. Yeah, that's true. That is true. It makes you wonder what other people could come up with. If you could have like a contest for skeletonized 17 millimeter paint racks, I mean, this is, and that's like, how high is that? So what does that come out to? Because currently it's like 40 millimeters, and so we cut off 1.5 off the top, so now we're looking at 38 something or whatever. I don't know. Maybe on the bottom we can I don't know, that's going to be a lot to shave off on the bottom, but maybe the supports, you could make them a little bit smaller. I think you could do that, because the supports, I mean, I don't know. Look at that. The supports are, those are kind of there. I mean, you could get rid of these two here, these two supports, and just have that, and that would minimize it. Of course, then you could probably do this thing to death, but then I'd run out of videos if I did everything perfect the first time. So let's go ahead. You'd probably, and if you did a contest, you'd have to have, like, say, the height has to be a certain height, or the hole size for the wall mount for the screws has to be a certain diameter or whatever. You'd have to have some rules on that. So you'd have some standardization. Otherwise, people would say, well, I'm going to use a thumbtack and put this on the wall. But yeah, let's see how this goes. So let's go back and we'll select all this. We'll group all this. Boom, and there we go. So that's not bad. So we got a little bit of an inset in there to hold the bottle. Removed a little bit of material. And then what we could end up doing is we'll keep that selected. We'll go to export and we'll go to STL, preparing for download. So as that processes and downloads, we'll see how that goes. And then we'll throw it into Creality Print and we'll see what it says as far as a weight estimate. Because we got 15.6 for screenshots, and I've got what was that one? That one ended up saying, oh, that was with supports. It was 35.39 grams, which is like 71 cents for what I paid for my filament, but it doesn't really matter. And then without the supports, it was 18.99 grams, but we got rid of a bunch of those rectangle supports and brought it down to 15.6 on the actual scale. So, interesting. We shall see. And I'm clicking the picture of the Creality print software, and I'm trying to do Creality print, and it's not responding because it's the picture. Yeah. Did you ever do that? Yeah, it's kind of like the people who put the stickers of the electrical outlets in an airport, and people try plugging their phones and stuff into them. Yeah, that's me. Apparently today. Man, this is taking a while to download. So yeah, that's what. Oh, of course, now as we speak, and we'll just put 15. Well, I don't know. Let's put 13. And we'll drop that. We will bring up Creality print, the real Creality print. Yeah, I had the picture of this screen and I was clicking on, and it's like, why isn't it working? Why is it froze? It was the picture, the screenshot. So let's go back to prepare. We'll do another one of these. We'll bring this up, and this is the new abbreviated version. So there we can see, we countersunk that down a little bit compared to the other one. Made that a little bit smaller for the whole diameter. We reduced the size of that. We countersunk that in like that. And we've left everything the same. Let's just not do supports and see what the estimate is. I'm thinking 13 is 12.11 grams. 24 cents for a 8 slot paint holder if it prints. But we're going to need supports because there's no way that's going to print in midair. If you could do bridging like that, that would be incredible. And eventually we'll get there. So with the supports, tree support default, and I wanted to, top Z distance was 0.2, which came off pretty good. I'm going to set this 0.24 because I've had good luck with that. 0.26 is pretty good, but 0.24 I should get a little adhesion, and we'll slice this up. And there it is. So it'll still come out to 29.71 grams, and it'll cost me 59 cents for the supports. So, but you know what I could do? Let's go to Tree Slim, and it says it wants to change the interface layer and top Z distance to 0. No, I don't want to do that. I like my tried and true. I just want to see how this turns out. And that's only 24.55 grams and 49 cents. So under 50 cents. But look at that. We're having that problem again because the XY interface, where is that? Support object XY distance is 0.35. Is that touching? That almost looks like it's touching. Let's take that to 4. Usually I set it to 6. But in the previous versions of Creality Print, what I noticed is that these would definitely touch the model, and I'm still seeing a little, no, it doesn't. I'm going to say, okay, let's just run with that. We'll see how that goes. So we'll print this out. And this will be 1 hour and 36 minutes. 24.14 grams. So let's do a screenshot of this. And then when we do the next video where we print all of this, and then let's go back and we will disable supports. We'll slice this up and we'll see how close we get. So this is going to be 12.11 grams. So we'll see what the estimates are, and then what the real weight is. And so now that we've got that, we'll keep it in black. We'll got all that. I think we're good to go. Let me check. Let me just click this and make sure that we've got it set to 1. Yep, those are my good settings. Preview, and we will send this off to be printed. And because Mr. Ferrithus told me about this over here where it says print calibration, if you click that off, it won't do the calibration. I know where that's at now. The obvious thing, sticking out in green. Imagine that. So we'll just shoot that over there. Boom, 1 hour and 36 minutes. We'll come back. Maybe we'll do another video. We'll do another video. I don't know if it'll be another 1 hour and 36. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, kind of doing the skeletonized. Am I going to use this? I don't know. Probably not. Then again, maybe. I don't know. If I got a Scatus, well, that's the other question, is do the holes line up with the Scatus pegboard? It's about 21. Almost 21, 22, about 22 millimeters across. That's 100, 210, 11, 12. So 212 millimeters is about the distance for the center of each hole. So, I don't know, maybe? Let's see. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I don't think those are going to line up. I don't think it's going to line up. Details. Is it working? Is the machine moving? So I might have to make some adjustments to get it to work on the scale. I don't have the build plate on. Oh no. Let me go. I will be right back. Because I have the build plate here. Okay, crisis averted. Okay, so send to print, start print. Make sure no models are on the printing platform, otherwise it will cause damage to the device after startup. And for people like me, they should put in a thing that says, make sure there's a build plate. So now we've got a build plate on there. But the cool thing is there was one time that what I ended up doing, cancel, nope. What I ended up doing is I forgot to build plate one time, and on the screen of the K2 Plus it actually says, hey, build plate not installed or something like that, so that was kind of cool. Let's see. Ferrith says that he's playing with the 0.2 millimeter nozzle for the first time, and I'm trying not to mess up my hot end screwing the nozzle in. Right? I found when I do the nozzle change, instead of just trying to screw it in clockwise, that what I've ended up doing is I'll go counterclockwise until it like seats in there, and then I'll slowly turn it. And then usually, I've worked with some other sensitive equipment in the past that, you know, you had to be careful of not cross-threading. And that's one of the things that we did, is just kind of back it off until it kind of clicks in, and then slowly turn it. And ever since I've done that, I've never cross-threaded anything, so that might help. He also says, instead of the rings being horizontal, you could turn them at a 45 from the bottom up. That would serve as your side beams and is printable without supports. That's true. Yeah. I bet it would print on the magnet surface. I saw a picture where somebody did that. It was obviously an older printer, but yeah, somebody actually did a print. I want to say it was on an old Ender or something like that. It was old bed slinger. But yeah, the print was actually on the magnetic plate. So, and it printed. So, but yeah, could you imagine that? And then having to scrape that thing off? I don't know. You'd probably have to let that thing cool, and then maybe it would release on its own. But yeah, that 0.2 millimeter nozzle, that would be interesting. As I remember on the other video when we looked up, or was it the last video we did? There was one video, but I was looking at some information about the layer heights that you could go. And with the 0.4, it said you could go to 0.8. And the smallest layer height that I've done for my figures, like the Hulk back there and some of the other stuff, is 0.16. Granted, smaller, you're going to take more time to print it, but you have less layer lines. But yeah, that could be interesting. If you could go down to 0.8 on a 4 millimeter nozzle, or a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, or whatever hell the nozzle is, yeah, that would be some pretty fine printing. That would be interesting to test. But on a 0.2, man, that would be. What are you going to be printing with that, man? That's what I want to know. I mean, you got anything in mind, or are you just testing it out and trying it? Inquiring minds want to know. So we'll see what happens. And there we go. And I think it's doing the calibration because I didn't unclick the calibration when I redid this. Oh well. I don't know, is it? Let's see. Is it just doing the area that it's gonna print, or is it doing the whole calibration thing? That is what we want to know. Come on now. Let's go back to Creality Print. Creality Print, go back. And we'll see if we can adjust. So I can adjust that. That's kind of cool. It looks like it's doing, yeah, the full calibration. Oh well. Oh, I need to get that other little stuff off there. Dang it. Had to get that little layer on the left side that it prints. I didn't want it to print over that. Forget the build plate, forget to clean the build plate. Let's see what else I can screw up today. But we didn't screw up. So, let's see. Veritha says, a friend made a tiny model of the Mario plant that lives in the tube. She's wondering if it prints. On that, on your 0.2 nozzle? That would be interesting. I wonder how small you could get on printing a figure. That's a good question. What is the... Maybe I can look that up. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I can do this. I can copy that, and I can bring this over here, And I think I can, yep, there I can. Dare say I can. I'm going to smooth the camera over here. This is so cool, what you can do with technology these days. That is just kind of amazing. Let's see. But if I bring up the web page, is that going to bring up the web page? Yeah, it sure is. Dang it. Dang it, dang it, dang it. So, yeah. You could probably do it. I just don't know how to do it. But let's go to Grok. Let's ask Grok and say, what layer heights can you print with a Creality K2 Plus with a 0.02 nozzle? We'll see what happens. Grok is searching. Dun, 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 dun. And let's see what Grok says. Grok ends up saying, I'll do a little overlay. Do camera overlay. Is it that one? Nope, it's not that one. Which one is it? Nope, it's that one. There we go. So on this, according to Grok, it says the Creality K2 Plus equipped with a 0.2 millimeter nozzle can achieve fine layer heights for high detail 3D printing based on available information. Ideal heights for a 0.2 millimeter nozzle range between 10% to 70% of the nozzle diameter, which translates to 0.02 millimeters to 0.14. Wow, the smallest layer height would be 0.02. Extremely fine details. That is crazy. But on the 0.04 nozzle, you can get 0.16. Common heights are 0.2 millimeter nozzle include 0.48, 0.1, 0.12. Wow. That is interesting. Smaller layer heights typically require slower speeds to maintain quality and prevent clogs. Creality print software may not have a default profile. I don't know if they do or not. That would be interesting to find out. So, yeah. Interesting. There, this says, on the 0.4 it's finicky, so I'm trying 0.2 to get more detail. You definitely get more detail, that's for sure. They say the aspect ratio between layer height and nozzle diameter should not be more than 5:1 because you end up overstretching the plastic, leading to too much stress. So 0.4 can go to 0.8, 0.2 could go to 0.4. Okay, all right, cool. 0.8, wow, that would be crazy. 0.2 down to 0.4, wow, that is crazy. That would be some insane details. That, what did I end up printing? I printed up, is it this guy? I printed up this guy, the little Viking dude there, but that was like 0.16, but the details on that came out really good. It was just like, wow. You do the Ivor on the 0.2 millimeter nozzle and take it down to, wow, 0.04. Wonder how, would that print? That would be crazy. Oh, and it broke his axe. I got a couple of broken pieces on this. Oh no. Might have to print them out again. And of course the resin printing. Resin printing is, you can get some good stuff along with that. So, fun stuff. Yeah, that was 0.4 millimeter nozzle. Yeah, I haven't changed. I've changed the nozzle, but stayed the same size, stock size. And of course, now that I got that micro Swiss in there, that's still the 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So, which seems to be doing much better. It definitely heats up faster. Seems to be a lot faster in heating up and things like that. And I don't know, it just seems to help with better layers. So yeah, it just ends up, it seems pretty good. So what am I looking for? I was going to trim this up as I was just sitting here, but we'll see. We will see how light we can get that. But yeah, you'll have to do some tests and check that out, and report back and I don't know, send a picture or whatever. That would be cool to see the difference of printing something with the 0.4 and 0.16, and then just kind of see how far you can go until it doesn't work anymore. That would be pretty wild. But yeah, K2 Plus has been good. It's been good. Yeah, that calibration thing, I should have clicked that. Should have clicked that off, because now we get to watch it do the calibration thing. Dun dun dun. Ferrith says, I have a hot end for each nozzle size. I swap around a bit. Oh, okay. Cool. I just got the 0.4, but now you got me thinking maybe I could just buy the other nozzles just in case. But then again, I didn't even use the included nozzles with the K2 Plus, the extra nozzles. I used one extra nozzle because the other one got clogged. And of course, now that I know how to clear out clogged nozzles, I might have to go back and redeem that stock one because I didn't throw it away. But I had a couple extras of stock, and then when I got the micro Swiss, of course, one came with the full hot end, and then I got one extra in the 0.4. But yeah, I might have to end up getting it. We see a little bit of mess up on that right there. That's because the build plate, I didn't clean that off in my oily fingers or whatever. Usually that prints out pretty good. You go get rid of that, maybe. All right, guys, eat up my soup sandwich. how that goes. Ate up like soup sandwich. Ferris says Creality stock nozzles are $9 a pop, so it's a no-brainer. Yeah, that's true. That is true. They're not bad. I use a 0.6 on large stuff, same volumetric flow, but printing slower, more stable, finishes the same time as 0.4. Oh, really? Cool. That could come in handy with doing some helmets and cosplay stuff. Which I'm going to be printing out that Slayer, who's a guy from Galactic Armory, Slayer Exterminator, or whatever that was. I'm probably going to order that and download that. So I'm thinking about doing that helmet minus sans visor. Yeah, this ended up like soup. Let's get back here. Yeah, something to be said about the clean build plate. Of course, if I clicked off the calibration like you taught me to, I wouldn't be seeing that, so because it's already calibrated. So it's off and running. We'll see how this goes. So yeah, we're looking at an hour and 37 minutes, about, give or take. Yeah, about an hour, 37 minutes, 53 seconds. So not too bad. I should have cleaned the plate. We'll see how this goes. keep the fingers crossed. I'm not sure how this is going to go. But it is what it is. So that's what we got going on. Playing around, again, the skeletonized paint racks and stuff like that. That would be interesting. Boom, boom. Says you just need to deselect the flow calibration on the printer itself. Then it only does the auto leveling. I know, right? Right? But I like the calibration too. I do, because like if there's a power outage or I shut it down, I always like doing the calibration, and definitely after firmware upgrades. Apparently, I've been reading online, people that did the firmware upgrade, the last firmware upgrade, people ended up having problems with their prints and stuff. And other people were like, well, did you recalibrate after the firmware upgrade? And people didn't. And then there were some people that were like, well, I checked it out, and yeah, I redid the calibration, ran it through, input shaping, the whole 9 yards, and then that fixed the problem. So that's definitely something, as far as from what I've learned from other people, is that a firmware upgrade, I'll let other people use it and figure it out and see if it works, and then after a while I'll download and upgrade and then redo everything. So, but it would be nice to have that on Creality Print, where if they had on that print page when you send it to the printer, if you could just set that as default, calibrate always. I don't know. That'd be too much work for Creality, I think. They've got a lot to do with their software a little bit. But they pretty much just use, software is the software. It is what it is. So, yeah. So we'll see how it goes. There it says, when you firmware upgrade, there's usually a pop-up that you should do the printer calibration before printing. Yeah, I think there is. And when that pop-up comes up saying that you need a firmware upgrade, usually I'll just disregard that and I won't upgrade it until a week or so, and just kind of scour the interwebs and see if anybody, the Creality sites, and see if what problems people are having. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, yeah, it seems safe. So yeah, I upgraded the last one. Flow and pressure advanced calibration are material dependent, yes, and that shouldn't be affected between firmware upgrades. Yeah, that's true. But there's people that have said that they've had problems with different materials. I don't know if it's because of the settings for those different types of filaments that they ran into problems. Matter of fact, I was just reading earlier today before I got in doing videos today. Somebody was talking about how they had always printed in ABS, same material, same manufacturer, same files. Apparently he's got side gig, but then he did the firmware upgrade and his texture on the outside just looked horrible. It was, compared to his other prints that he did like the day before, very, very huge difference. So yeah, he had to redo the calibration. I think there was some other minor settings that he was saying that there were some problems, but I didn't really pay much attention because I don't do ASA or ABS or whatever, so it's not really my deal. But I thought it was interesting that, people were having similar problems with that. So the only thing I noticed when they upgrade the firmware, the fluid scripts are reset. So if you edit them, you need to re-edit them after. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Interesting. Food for thought. Keep that on the back burner. So yeah, that'd be some good stuff to know. Yeah, I really need to search the interwebs to find somebody who is real smart on that fluid stuff. I mean, beside you. But if somebody had like a course, on fluid and all the different things, because I really want to know more about that program and what you can do. Hell, even just in Creality Print and the slicer, and you have the different settings. I know the pop-ups come up and will tell you, what's what, and this does this and this does that, but something a little bit more deep dive into those things and how they interrelate with prints and whatever you're doing and whatever, some real life examples to show you those things, the one extreme to another and finding that happy medium. So I don't know. What's interesting is I've never really seen this problem with resin printing. Resin printing has always just been, the firmware upgrades, boom. Never had problems with firmware upgrades with my Saturn III Ultra. You get a firmware upgrade, boom. Resin settings are still the same. Of when I dialed it in, I just use the same resin that I usually do, print a thing, and it's good to go. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that. And talking about resin printing, my Saturn III Ultra is still rocking it pretty good. But I have been tempted with that the Haygears machine. That looks pretty good. Which one is that? Haygears. It's the new one. Reflex RS, I think that's the one they were talking about. That machine is hot. And the only reason I haven't gotten that is because, yeah, the RS Turbo, the only reason I haven't got that is because of I'm cheap. Cancel that. Says, yes, resin printers are also much simpler, much less moving parts, basically one Z-axis and a light switch. Yeah, and just light flickers on and off, thing moves, boom, there you go. But what I like about that Haygears is their auto support system is bar none the best. And especially with the program that they have, which is, which one is that? The Haygears Cloud. And you can actually use that software. You can import models into it, do the auto supports, which are fantastic in Haygears. Then you could download that as an STL, and then you could import that file into, your Cheetah box or whatever slicing software you have for your resin printer, and boom, it is hands down the best auto supports I think anybody's ever seen. The Haygears has got it going on with that. So that was enough just for me to almost get that machine. And then I recently found out that you can use that program as a guest, and I've got it downloaded somewhere. I got it here. Boom, boom, boom. Orca, blah, blah, blah. There's Orca Ultra. Tango Voxel Tango Slicer used to be good, but they're not doing enough with that program. But Haygears, their program slicer is awesome. The auto orientation is still janky like everybody else's. It'll tilt a model so the front and the face will get supports when it should be tilted the other way, orientated the other way. But their auto supports are hands down the best. So it was interesting that you could use that. But that Ultracraft Reflex RS is the bomb. Let's take a look at that. Let's see what we can end up doing. What are we going to do here? Let's do this. I think we'll put me there. And then I want to do another overlay, screen share overlay. So that's what I want. I'll pop this baby in here. And then we'll adjust. So I think I press this and then do that. Just kind of clean this up. Make it a little bit more professional. That way we can get some more screen space. I'll do that. But that Haygears, man, that machine looks really good. My Kokotok. That's kind of like Messenger for here in Korea. But yeah, this looks really good. This looks really good. That Reflex RS, I'm so tempted to get that. Let's just move this all the way up here. No, don't move that. Move that. There we go. And it's on sale. Ends in 4 hours and 15 minutes and counting. But the price tag is $1,700. Ouch. But that's with all of that. I don't want the combo. I just want the machine. I don't want the pulsing thing because that's like in resin. Damn it, Jim. I don't want the combo. I don't really like their wash and cure station thing. The cure station looks okay, but the wash station looks weird. I would just want the machine itself. Yeah, the results they get on this is insane. And then now that they found out a number of people have ended up using this with their own choice of resin, it is pretty wild. Earth says, yeah, with resin printing, no bell tensioning, fast steppers, heat. Yep. And now Ferrithus is printing his own test benchy at his new nozzle. And the question is, how big is the build plate? That's what we're going to take a look at. So I don't like the way they do these things. I get it, but just show me the specs. There we go. So build volume, 222 by 122 by 228. So that's not bad. It's not bad. And I mean, for me, that wouldn't be bad. I don't do a lot of big stuff when I do my resin printing. I think the largest resin print I did was my Hulk. Not the big Hulk, but the other one, and maybe a couple other ones. Some, maybe 5-6 inches is kind of like the most I've done on my resin printer. Maybe a little bit taller than that. But yeah, that's not bad. 405 light source. Yeah, and the way they got this going, it is 180 watts power, 110, 220. Weight is 20 kilograms. So that's kind of a hefty little machine there. So it ends up, it's a 10.3 inch 8K mono screen. And that other one is a smaller 9.25 inch. So let's make this a little bit bigger. So that's not too bad. Average speed, 4.5 seconds per layer. That is resin printing is amazing for figurines. I'm mostly doing functional stuff though, so it would be more of a gimmick for me. Yeah, totally get it. I'm right there with you. I was doing more figures and stuff like that when I was thinking about getting into Warhammer, and then Warhammer just started doing stupid stuff. But I still like the Warhammer figures. But yeah, that is tempting. That is tempting. Automatic resin heating. I mean, automatic fill capability. It just, so many things is right with that machine. And the slicing software is incredible. The auto supports is just hands down the best. I just wish they'd put the power switch on the front, but it is what it is. Yeah, but you can run this, like I said, you can run this program. One of the other guys on YouTube actually used this. I don't know if it was Fohammer or one of the other guys, but somebody ended up, importing models into it, entered into this as a guest, and was able to export it with the supports, and then just put it in his own slicing program and printed it that way. And the supports came off like butter. Incredible. Probably, like I said, the best slicing auto support program out there. So the orientation you need to work with, but the Hagears, that is nice. So the Reflex RS, Reflex Turbo, and then the Reflex itself. Even the Reflex was pretty good. Let's see. There's the Turbo. Let's see. The Reflex RS, and then the Reflex itself. Let's take a look at the Reflex. And it's still the same software. So $1,300, it's still kind of rough. That's a lot to pay for a resin printer. If you were knee deep into resin printing and but now that you can use the software and then your own other slicing, for auto supports, yeah, I don't see that. But it would be nice. It would be nice. So that's $1,300 basically. Ultracraft RS 3D. So it's a smaller one. 840. That's much smaller though. Yeah, we get it. It's great. It's wonderful. It's monitoring system, floating screen, automatic heat, build volume 222 by 122 by 228. It's just not as fast. Yeah, if you're a dungeon master and make your own D&D campaigns, that's what you need. That's still pricey though. I mean, the Reflex Turbo by itself is $950. So $950. Which one was this? $839, $840 basically, and then this one was $13. But even that had the automatic, resin filler, automatic level filling thing going on there. And the way they built it is just really nice. Of course, I wouldn't want the extra stuff on there. But yeah, it's a really nice machine. Of course, they did medical and dental resin printing that was their bread and butter. And then they got into the consumer market. But yeah, what they've done with that is just amazing. But if you look up Saturn 3 Ultra, and if we take a look at that, 285. Used to be 375, 285. And that does incredible as well. Years ago, there was this company that did not need to lift the build plate to lift the print off the build plate and get resin underneath. Huh, wow. That's interesting. They had this new tech that allowed them to solidify the resin above the build plate instead of on it. I wonder what happened to that patent. I never heard of that. Wow, that would be interesting. But yeah, Saturn 3 Ultra for under $300. You can't beat that. Resin printers. Let's look at resin printers. So Saturn 3 Ultra, even this, seriously. Saturn 4, Saturn 3 Ultra, I think that's all you're going to get there. Jupiter series is too big. Mars 4 Ultra, Mars 5, let's see what that runs. $180. Just crazy. The Mars 4. We just looked at that, the Mars 4. That's a $192, $193. Let's look at the Mars 4 itself. $155. That is crazy. The Mars 5 Ultra, but this is going to be grand. Oh no. That's $250 for that. That ain't bad either. Wow. And what is their big Saturn series? Their 4 Ultra. That's $500. I've seen a lot of stuff where people are having more problems with the Saturn 4 Ultra than like the Saturn 3 Ultra. So, not that I'm in the market for another resin printer. Mine still works, so I'm just going to use it until it dies or something really, really cool comes out. Let's see, what about their Jupiter series, the Monster series? That's $619. 12.8 inch screen. Build volume of 277 by 156 by 300. Automatic resin feeding. I haven't looked on any models or reviews for that. That would be, it's so cheap to get into resin printing these days, and it's so much better. That is crazy. Wish they had it in Freedom units. Refilling. I don't like that little collector thing though, because having to clean that would just be, that's the only thing I don't like there. That's why I like that Hager's, is because it's a bottle upside down and it's just minimal cleaning. So I like that one a lot better. But that's $1,300, or $800 or whatever. This is $619. Not bad. But RS, 800, 13. Yeah, if I was deep into miniatures, I'd definitely get me a Hager's. Even just the RS. It's just, oh so nice. whether you use their resin or you use aftermarket resin and use their profiles. Looked amazing. They're basically just pulled that object slowly out of the resin in a continuous motion. Really? That one you were talking about, wow, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. Yeah, at that price point, you could almost get a Formlabs. I know, right? That would be so many hobbies, so many things, and not enough money is what it comes down to. That is what it comes down to, yeah. So, fun stuff on that. Let's see, what do we got going on? Yep, we're printing. Which is good. Of course, it's on the flat side, so I don't expect any problems with this. It'll just have a lot of supports. The minimal supports, but it'll be interesting to see what the final weight is on that. That'll be pretty cool. Yeah. Let's see what we got going on. Cool. Daughter just said hi. She's awesome. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So anyway, I think I'm gonna call this. How much time we got left on this? We're looking at an hour and 13 minutes left. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna hang on for another just over an hour just to watch this thing print. I'll do another video later. And I think we're actually gonna go out to eat, so we'll kind of close this video out. But yeah, some good stuff. So much coming out with 3D printers and resin printers and all of that stuff. Really kind of makes you wonder what is going to be the next big thing. I don't think there's another big thing in resin printing. I really don't think there's going to be something that's going to wow everybody and it'll just upset the resin printing market. I think you'll get some more finer or finely tuned products or slicer programs. Kind of like what Hager's did. The auto supports will be a lot better. But really, after auto supports, and if that is as good as it's going to get, which is pretty much all you need, is good supports, and you don't need to mess with any settings or dialing in of resin, you just pour it in and go. And that's what people have done, of course, with the Hager's resin, but also with different company resin. They just fill up the Hager's bottle and then put that in there, and they've had excellent results. What else is there to do? I mean, are you really going to make such advancements that you're going to half the time that it takes to print a figure or a model? No, I don't think so. So I think we're about at the pinnacle of where we are with resin printing as it is. I don't think you could do very much more in regards to improvement to the technology to just really throw everybody into the dust and leave them behind. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't think there's there. For FDM printing, that'll be interesting to see, aside from, what was it, the index, the coil heating system. What is that? And I forget. Index. Bondtech. That is it, the Bondtech. The Bondtech system is insane. I think that is pretty much going to, that's going to revolutionize the system there. So, what do we got? Let me see if I can get this to fit the page. But yeah, the Bondtech, that's just, let me just do a whole new page on this. We'll just make it easier. New screen share overlay. Boom. I'll do it like this. And then we will do this. We'll go back to readjusting. Kind of make it all nice and pretty. And like so. And then, what I end up doing, we'll just do this. I'll do a little bit more adjusting. I'll do that. But yeah, this is going to be the bomb. This new coil heating system that they have, hot end, that is actually crazy. I think this is really going to take FDM printing to a whole nother level, and we're going to see more companies do this with the coil heating system for the filament. Again, minimal amount of time. It is just insane on what they can do with that. Definitely check out their videos and stuff like this. That is just going to be crazy. Yeah, index. That is going to be crazy. And then they're looking at retrofitting or having as far as I know, they're not working with a company to produce a printer with this on it, with their stuff on it. But there were some indications that that's a possibility, so that would be insane. But could you imagine having the K2 Plus 350 by 350 and then throwing on these things here into multi-head printing? It'd just be, that would be insane. That would be something yes, it is really, really, really nice and just amazing on what they did. When you see the examples and the videos and how it changes and how fast it is, no wasted filament whatsoever, increased printing times. It's just like, that would, man, that will be a game changer. Whew. Yeah, that'll be good. So anyway, yeah, that's what we got going on. Here's another skeletonized version of a paint rack that I did. So I just kind of did some shapes and colors and stuff like that, and that kind of came out good. And then we graduated to this one here. So everything's backwards in the video. So then we graduated to this one here, and then we're reducing that, and we're printing out a less material paint rack. We'll see how that goes. And then it all came back to the original paint rack that we had up here, which looked so nice in sheen and color because Ferrithus had some good settings. So, which one? There it is. There's the nice one. So, yeah, look at that. Nice. Came out really nice. So yeah, this is the nice one. But the skeletonized one, this is just kind of like a thing to do. We'll see what happens. We're going to be going out to lunch tomorrow. Okay, cool. Cool. So I'll have lunch with the daughter tomorrow. That means I can play around for the rest of the day today. And today being, what, Saturday, I think it is? That's what happens when you're retired. You don't know what day it is. Yes, it's Saturday. So, but that's what we got going on. So anyway, for those of you, if you want an interesting hobby that never ends and drains money from your bank account each and every month, get into resin printing, get into FDM 3D printing and any type of 3D printing, and at least it's not crack. So it's actually a good hobby to get into. So yeah, we've got that. So anyway, we're going to call this good. Thank you everybody for watching. And again, same old thing, like, subscribe, coffee if you want to do that. If not, that's cool. Send me a hi, a note, a message. Email is there. It is what it is. Thanks for watching. And yeah, definitely Ferrithus. Tell me how that 0.2 millimeter nozzle works out and what you print out, and that would be interesting to see. So yeah, send me pictures or whatever it is, and yeah, we could post them on the video or whatever. We can make a video and I could post those, or you could make a video and post them. But either way, I'd like to see what that 0.2 millimeter nozzle does. Then I'll start printing out more stuff like that. I don't know. All right, yeah, we're going to continue on. Everybody have a good day and have fun tinkering, like Ferrithus says, and we will see you all on the next video. All right? Cool. Peace. Good stuff.